fun.
Well, I'll tell you the people I cooked for. I was Tom Cruise's chef. I was Madonna's chef. I was Will and Jada Pinkett Smith's chef.
So are you out or are you in? Dance, 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 gonna dance, dance, dance in the kitchen. Head alone, now we'll be just fine, fine, fine. Make a life of your own, see the world through change.
Hey guys, I'm Ashley.
I'm Octavia.
We have an amazing guest here today, Lulu Powers, and this is Dancing in the Kitchen. And we just want to have a conversation with you and get to know you better and talk a little bit more about all of the interesting things you bring to the table.
Let's do it.
She's bringing a lot of food to the table.
Yeah,
Very true.
a lot of food.
So I have a question to kick us off, which is, how did you initially get interested in cooking and nutrition, and how did you get into being a professional chef?
Well, I grew up and my mom, I'm one of 6 children, and we always sat down to a nice meal, everything always, my mom, I get aesthetically, always liked everything to look beautifully, and we all had to sit down and talk at the table. My parents were both great chefs. That's how, I never really knew I could cook. I knew I could cook, but it's kind of like I did it through osmosis, seriously. And I moved out to LA to write TV sitcoms, still a chance. But, I had to work. So in New York City, I had this little business while I was in college teaching housekeepers how to cook. But it's funny, even then I'm like, I don't know how to cook. I just can show them. But I had a whole business doing that. And when I moved to LA, Sigourney Weaver, I got a call from Sigourney Weaver to see if I would be her chef because she got recommended, but someone in New York recommended me, say, oh, this girl just moved out to LA, blah, blah, blah. So when she first called me, I was like, I'm like literally in my house, we have 2 forks, me and my best friend live together, and I had nothing to cook with. But when I was talking to her, I'm like, is this a joke? Is there, I'm a jokester, so I'm like, is someone praying a prank? So I'm like, did you go to Yale? Because for some reason I know that Sigourney Weaver went to Yale. And she said, yes. And I said, and your dad used to run NBC? She goes, how would you know that? I go, I know. And she goes, yes. And I'm like, okay, it is you. Because I was like,
Am I being lured to some mansion for nefarious purposes?
But the funniest thing was, she was staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and she said, I hear you're a good chef. And I kind of was like, chef, I'm like a cooker. Those words didn't even. So I said to her, well, before you hire me, do you want to try my food? She goes, okay, yeah. How about tomorrow at 6 o'clock, you drop it off at the Four Seasons, just make me dinner. I'm like, okay. Get off the phone, I'm like, looked around my kitchen. I went to Ross's Dress for Less, bought pans, got some plates. I know exactly what I made, this grilled swordfish, and then I did a tomato orange salsa, and then I put it over this little bit of rice and threw some mint on top, because I'm like, well, she probably eats clean. I didn't know. Totally don't know. And then I remember I put the saran wrap over to it, got in my car, drove over there, and literally went to the concierge and was like, this is for Sigourney Weaver. They're like, okay. Now? That would never happen. Because they'd be like, she's poisoning her. You just don't drop things off, right?
Wait, can we back up? So how did Sigourney Weaver know that you were a good chef?
Because one of the people who hired me in New York City teaching their housekeepers cook were friends with her. Now, at the same time I was doing this, I had gotten a job at the House of Blues waitressing. So I would waitress, and Sigourney's driver picked up the food from my house at 11 o'clock and came back at 4. And then at night, I didn't have to be there till 4:45. And then one night, Sigourney Weaver came into the House of Blues, and I said to my manager, you know how I told you I was doing a side gig cooking for, well, she's at that table and I'm gonna go home now.
The House of Blues is no longer there.
No longer.
But I know that was definitely part of my experience. It was one of the first places I went when I came to LA.
And
I performed
opening.
there.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing.
I'm sure Liz has a background with that too.
And that kind of got me started. And there was an article I got called by this guy, Jeffrey Steingarten from Vogue, to tell me, this is like 20 years ago, that chefs are the new rock stars. And I'm like this, okay. He's like, can I come? You know, I want to interview when I come to LA. I'm like, because he heard that I was cooking. Now, listen, this is first private chef gig, first celebrity. Like, I was like, I'm like a cooker. What am I going to tell this guy when he comes? And I had no money as to why I was working 2 jobs. And so he said, you got to take me to 2 of your favorite places you eat in LA. I'm like, yeah, like a 25 cents budget. So one thing someone took me to, and I'll never forget, is he said to me, if you ever get down and out and you need to eat, I'm going to take you somewhere that will cost you $1. And he took me to Thrifty's on Cannon in Beverly Hills. You can get a scoop of ice cream that they make for $1. And that was it. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to take him to the Thrifty's.
Thrifty?
The other thing was I was reading the paper, and it was a Wednesday, and then this whole thing about the Beverly Hills cheese store. I'd never been there. And I'm like, this sounds like a good place to take him to. They sell wine. The guy Norberg, talk about Norberg, who owns it. So I meet him. I pick him up. We go to Thrifty's. He's like, this is genius. And I'm like patting myself on the back. Like, okay, got through one. Now he's like, now where do you want to go next? I'm like, to the Beverly Hills cheese store. I literally had to write the address on my hand because I was like, so we walked over street, and I was like trying to look at the numbers. I'm like, oh, there it is over there. And we walk in, I'm like, hey guys, how are you? I walked in like I own the place. And then I knew. And they're like, hey, you haven't been in here in a while. And I could only say to myself, I have never been in here.
Oh my goodness.
But I recognized the Norberg guy from the photograph. And I'm like, hey, you gotta meet Jeffrey Steingarten from Vogue. And literally we were in there for 3 hours, like cheeses, wines, this, that. And I walk out of there, I'm like this.
Oh, that's such an LA moment though,
I know.
honestly, of like, just walk into a place and act like you know everybody. Like, they're not gonna question you.
No.
Really or not. Like, you can do that anywhere.
No.
And then, like, with what he was saying about chefs being the new rock stars 20 years ago, like, that has totally come to pass. Like, we have all these celebrity cooking shows.
And I thought the guy was like,
right.
like, I'm like, how's chefs being rock? Like, I didn't even like, okay.
But it became really, really true.
Yeah.
It did. So that's a really cool story. So do you have any other anecdotes from your time as a celebrity chef, or any other stories that are fun?
Well, I'll tell you the people I cooked for. I was Tom Cruise's chef. I was Madonna's chef. I was Will and Jada Pinkett Smith's chef. And this Herb Ritz, who I just loved. And I was working for him, and he passed away. He makes me cry. After Sigourney, he read the article in Vogue, and then I went for an interview with him, and I'm at his house, and the only thing I could think when I'm sitting across from him, here's like the #1 photographer in the world, like does every cover, like, and he's like, so I hear you're a good chef. He had like high voice, and I'm like, yeah. I go, I don't really want to be a chef, and he was like, huh? I'm like, I actually came out here to write TV sitcoms, and he was so like perplexed that I said that. He's like, but aren't we in an interview? Because you were, yeah, I need to work, yes. Like, how about we try it for 3 months? He's like, okay, I think I not shocked him, but he was kind of like, huh? 3 months trial? That turned into years.
Oh my God.
But even working for him, I'm like, this is a means to an end. And so one day when I was driving to the Fox lot, and I'm still cooking for Herb, and I remember sitting there looking up at the Simpsons sign, and I'm like, I'm good at this. Why don't I just do this? And it's like my whole, like having my shoulders up to here and every day feeling like I should be somewhere else kind of changed my whole like outlook.
What was it about the Simpsons sign?
I don't know. I was just at the stoplight. I don't know, but I remember it so clearly, being at a red light, looking at the Simpsons sign and being like, why don't I just do this?
Well, that's so funny because
My husband's the animation producer on The Simpsons, of all the things.
No.
And I have to say something. So my husband always says, go through the door that's open. So like so many people are like fighting to do one thing
Right.
or another, right? Go through the doors open. Like the doors for this for you were wide open.
That's when you have to be awake and aware.
Right.
Yeah, and I was thinking too, like, the path through Hollywood, or probably any kind of life path that you're trying to go down, is not linear, and it's not just like follow this step and this step and this step and then this will happen. Because I know, like, for me and Liz, it was the same way. I came out here for acting. I had a producer living on the floor below me. I like kind of got outed that I wrote songs and asked to perform, so I did, and that led to this and this led to that. And then I had a garage sale after recording my first album, and that was how we got our first song placement, because somebody came by and bought the album from my garage sale and happened to work at ABC.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and so you're right. It's like going through the door that's open, being aware enough and accepting enough, like not resisting.
Yeah,
It's, I mean, the story you're telling is just so, like, iconic for many reasons, because I feel like if you talk to most people who have been in Los Angeles and in this industry, no matter which part of it they're working in, it's very often those kinds of stories. And even with the ice cream, you know, coming to Hollywood and how people kind of help you and help you understand how to get by in this city and how, okay, here's what you can do when you don't have any money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So you said you worked for Tom Cruise. We have to ask if you had the famous coconut cake.
I have had the famous coconut cake, and it's delicious. Tom likes to cook, though. He can make a mean carbonara.
Really?
But he was great to work for, so kind. His family was kind, too. So I actually have, you know, I put all those people that I said, when I cook them, they're all like at the top of their game. And so how it kind of worked is Madonna said it best one day when she goes, you do what you do best, I do what I do best, and we'll get along just fine. And that's how, that's kind of how I am. I think because I was so comfortable with myself too, that it was never.
That's so true. It's like the more comfortable you are with yourself, the easier it is to kind of like get along and be
you're
able
trying
to
to
work
do
with
the
others.
best you can.
Yeah.
And you want to do the best you can so you make your boss happy. I mean, that was always my outlook on it. Or try to do anything.
That's the winning outlook, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I was thinking, I certainly am not, I don't consider myself at Madonna or Tom Cruise level, but I've noticed as I've gotten older and my life has gotten busier and I've got a few kids and, you know, I also feel like I need to specialize, and I can see just from where I'm at how it makes sense to put people in roles where they do what they do best.
Right.
And you do what you do best, and it works better that way because it's really, and I don't think this is like unique to Hollywood. I think this is across the board with everybody.
It's a life lesson.
It takes a team. It takes a team to get things done, and especially the busier you get, you have children, it just takes a team.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a little bit of a soapbox for me, but I feel like our society kind of encourages this very individualistic, everyone do everything for themselves, do your own dry cleaning, get gas in your car, wash your car.
No, okay, that's a good lesson I learned from my stroke. I was not a great delegator. Okay, so I'd always think I can do everything faster. I mean, I always had a catering business on the side too, and I did like the Warner Music Group Grammy parties, and in life I've become a better delegator if I need help. You know, instead of trying to do everything yourself, it's sometimes not worth it, and really people are happy to help you if you ask. Even like, can you go tape that up and put that, you know, instead of me running over there to do it, it's just like one less thing. But I had to learn all that.
I was born with it. My best friend at my wedding said, oh, if Octavia's doing a project, get away, because she is going to put you to work.
She'll find a job.
Oh, that's good.
That's funny. I'm probably a bit more like you, where it's harder for me to like ask for help or surrender control. But I definitely agree with that. It's so important. And if you think back historically, like families were living in multi-generational households, and like we had that support
worked
built in
together.
and community. Yeah, and I just feel like now it's become so sort of insular of like everyone out for themselves, and I want to bust that myth.
I felt bad to ask people. When people ask me to do things, and I would like bend over backwards and drive wherever I have to go to help them out. But I just didn't, and that is self-love. That's what I learned too.
Yeah,
Say
it's
no,
like,
or asking. Don't be afraid. I mean,
right, and like flipping the script of like, it's an honor to get to help someone, right?
takes
And
a
so
team,
like,
yeah.
if I'm asking, it's an honor for the person that I'm asking versus like an imposition. Yeah. Well, on that note, we would love to hear more about, you know, just everything involved in what happened with having a stroke, and in particular how food was part of your recovery journey, and whatever you feel comfortable sharing about that.
it out.